Hi, my name is Valerie. I'm about to tell you about an extremely uncommon situation I'm going through. I'm sure you haven't heard something like this before. I don't think you'd really understand. And actually, I don't really get it either. 2 years ago, I graduated from high school. My boyfriend Jeff and I spent our last year of school doing as many jobs as we could in order to save enough money for a trip. We love adventure. And so we planned to travel by ourselves all around the US for 6 months. We wanted to visit almost every single town we could. This trip was kind of our last time together, so we really wanted to fully enjoy it. Afterwards, we were going to take separate paths. Jeff was staying in Florida, and I was heading to Washington, D.C. for college. We weren't breaking up, but, well, you know how long-distance relationships often fail. Even if it worked out for us, it wasn't going to be the same. The trip was amazing. I would definitely say the best of my life, in spite of not leaving the country. Surprisingly, we didn't have really any problems during the trip. Luck was definitely on our side. Besides, I can assure you we didn't even fight once during that whole time, not even a little one. You know how hard that was? We were just simply happy to have this moment for ourselves, without parents or chores or duties, just living day by day. I was so focused on the places we were visiting that I totally forgot about my period. Yes, I know every woman should pay attention to it, but what can I say? Time was passing by so fast, and I didn't realize that I hadn't had my period in 3 months. By the time I did remember, I didn't have any symptoms of pregnancy. My belly was exactly as it was before our trip. Therefore, I really didn't pay it any mind. I thought it just could have been an irregularity in my cycle. I mean, that's happened before. We kept traveling for the remaining 2 months. Sadly, the 6 months passed by quickly, and our trip finally came to its end. I spent a few days in Florida packing up and saying goodbye to my family and friends. Then I went to Washington, D.C. alone. I wanted my mom to help me settle down. Yes, she said that if I was old enough and capable of traveling for 6 months with my boyfriend, I was also capable of going to the capital and settling down by myself. Makes kind of sense, I guess. I didn't know anybody there, so it took me a while to buy some stuff and arrange my dorm. I finally settled down within about a month. With all these things on my mind and the huge changes I was facing, I forgot about my period again. When I was finally used to my new life, it hit me. I had gone 6 months without a trace of my period. Now, I could understand 2 or 3 months without a period, but 6? This was way too strange. Nevertheless, if I was 6 months pregnant, I would have had a huge belly, right? And I didn't. My tummy had grown a little bit in the past few months, but I thought it was maybe due to the anxiety I was going through. I definitely didn't have a pregnant woman's tummy. Still, I thought I should go to a doctor to figure out what was going on with my period, to get a prescription or something to regulate my cycle. I made an appointment the day after I realized this was all going on. The doctor asked me a few questions first, then he checked me over and ordered me to take some tests. He didn't suspect I was pregnant because, like I said before, I didn't have a belly like a woman who was 6 months pregnant. Therefore, he didn't even do an ultrasound. A week later, the test results came in. I was indeed pregnant. This wasn't in my plans at all. Immediately, I went to the doctor's office. This time, he did do an ultrasound. I could notice that he had a big question mark all over his face while he was doing the sonogram. He clearly didn't understand what was going on either, but he didn't say anything to me. He simply watched and watched for several minutes. Then he left the room to make a call. I didn't entirely understand his conversation, but I could hear a bit of what he was talking about. It was about me, which was making me worry a lot. He came back and he said another doctor was coming to study my case and to give him a second opinion. We waited for some time until the doctor arrived. When he was looking at the sonogram, he looked back at his partner in astonishment. Still, nobody said anything. They kept looking at each other, and it was the worst silence you could imagine. Oh my God, the room was so tense. I was nervous and intrigued, I guess. I was gonna lose my mind any second if they didn't tell me what was going on. I couldn't handle it anymore. My patience had finally run out. I demanded the doctors to tell me what was going on. They understood my concern, but they said they needed to discuss my pregnancy between the two of them first. I had to wait a half an hour while they talked in private somewhere else. I had no idea why they were acting this way. Haven't they seen a pregnant teen before? I mean, it's not a big deal. It happens. It was a damn popular MTV show. It's not like I'm 12. They finally came back into the room to talk to me. Apparently, I was 25 weeks pregnant. Yet, the baby hadn't reached the development stage that it should be by this time. The baby was developing slower than most babies. For this reason, the baby was not going to be able to be born and be healthy in the regular time of 9 months. I'm sure you're thinking that a lot of babies are born a little while after the normal 38 weeks. You're probably thinking that my case is not that unique, but it is. Doctors estimated that the baby would be born in at least another 6 months, which would mean that I would be pregnant a total of 12 months. Crazy, right? They said they've never seen something similar in their many years of experience. There have been a few cases like this reported in other parts of the world, but in this hospital, in this state, they said they'd never treated a single case like this. I could have had the baby at 9 months, but the odds of him developing outside and surviving were slim. To be honest, it wasn't like I was looking forward to having a baby right now, because I wasn't. I'm not even in my 20s. This would change my entire life forever. My parents would be so disappointed if I don't continue my career, at least for a little while. I'm barely at the start. Even so, now that I was pregnant, I couldn't help but wonder how my baby would be. What if he could change the world? I know it's a dumb thought. But you can't help think it. All these thoughts were just spiraling in my mind. I decided to wait for whenever he's ready to come out. I don't want him to die because of my own decisions. This isn't the kind of choice you can exactly make on a whim. What made me more nervous was Jeff and my parents' reaction. Jeff had a bright future ahead of him as a baseball player. Besides, he wasn't mature enough to raise a baby. He's 19, like me. He has no experience with kids. On the other hand, I at least worked as a babysitter. He's not exactly parent material yet. Even if I know he's going to be supportive and stand by me, that wasn't my concern at all. But my parents were. I wasn't sure if my parents were going to have my back as much. They aren't really strict, but nevertheless, they can be a bit conservative. I thought they would care about what people would think, but eventually they would support me. First, I had to tell Jeff. We FaceTime every night, so as soon as I arrived home from the doctor, I told him. He was speechless for a few minutes, just kind of processing it. After a while, he said that he was going to buy a plane ticket to Washington, D.C. immediately. I told him to wait. I thought it might be kind of better for me to go to Florida to see my family and tell them face to face. But then that thought sounded terrifying, so I decided to call my parents. They were furious. They told me the importance of using protection, and I didn't listen to them, so they said, even though I actually had. I still had no idea how I'd gotten pregnant. We were really careful. I had to hear my parents' sermon for about an hour until they calmed down. Eventually, I was able to tell them about the strange details of my pregnancy. They eventually said that they would like for me to come back home, but it was probably better for me to stay in Washington, D.C. with the doctor who was already seeing my case. I decided to go back home. Since I was pretty sure I would need my family in order to deal with all this, I would just simply look for another doctor. I flew to Florida about a week later. As soon as I got there, I went to the hospital. Some doctors told me that it was impossible. They told me that they would only deliver my baby if I gave birth at the regular 9 months. But I wasn't going to take that risk, so no thank you, next. Others knew about these kind of pregnancies, but they refused to treat my case. Yeah, I guess that's a lack of commitment. After a bunch of doctors and a bunch of different hospitals, I finally found one who told me he knew a little bit about these situations. Nevertheless, he insisted he could further investigate to help me get through my pregnancy. I decided to trust him, but now I'm wondering if I should have. Months passed by, and my new doctor agreed the baby wasn't completely formed. I reached 12 months of pregnancy, and I was looking forward to finally giving birth already. After all, it was finally on the timeline that the first doctors told me this baby was going to be ready to be born. Also, I was extremely tired. Even so, according to this doctor, I had to wait even more. A month passed by, then another, and so on. He still says I'm not ready. It's been 18 freaking months. Some mothers would say it's incredible because I'm creating a deep connection with my son, but it's not. I'm not. I would like to create this connection with my baby outside of my body, please. Right now, I'm suffering. I'm still in constant pain. My belly seems like it's going to explode any minute now, and my water still hasn't broken. My whole body is full of 100 varicose veins. My back is killing me. I can't even walk. I have to be in a wheelchair. The worst of all is that the doctor doesn't exactly tell me what we're waiting for. He just keeps saying, you have to wait a bit more. That's what he said 6 months ago. How much is a bit more? Besides, Jeff and my family can't take it either. I'm being a pain in the ass to them. I really appreciate their patience. I'm starting to think that this doctor didn't do his research so well, and he has no idea what he's doing. At this point, I have no idea what I should do. Should I keep trusting him? Or should I go to have my baby in DC with the other doctor who actually knows about these pregnancies? I feel like it would be so hard for me to fly to DC in this state, but I'm desperate. I don't know. What do you think I should do?